Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to recreate the App Store. And if you're really looking to take your iOS development and UI layout skills to the next level, this is definitely the video for you. And if you are interested in the written form of this tutorial, please visit this link here and you'll be able to get a step-by-step guide on how to do all of this today. All right, so with that being said, let's look at what we want to build by going into the simulator here and take a look at the app. It looks very similar to the App Store, obviously, and you can scroll to the top here and then you can also scroll these categories of applications such as best new apps and best new games. And there we go. And scrolling down further, we see we have another type of horizontal layout for this 50% off category, and then we get another category like that at the bottom. And finally, upon clicking into that Disney Build It Frozen app, we get the details for this application that you can download from the App Store. So all of this is just my version and a mock version of what the App Store looks like. It's pretty close. It's not exactly the same, but it gets us to where we want to go in terms of developing our skills. Now, I'm going to build this directly from scratch, and I'm going to tell you that I'm going to be writing or coding really quickly, and hopefully you guys can follow along. So I'm going to go tab into Xcode, Command-Shift-N to build a new application, single view app. Let's call this App Store 1. Let's see, change it back to Swift here, and hit next. And we hit next again and drag this up to the top left, change that to the iPhone 6s, and run. And okay, so the simulator here now runs with the application in complete white. That's pretty good. It shows us that the application now compiles properly and we can start coding right away. So I'm not going to use a storyboard, and I'm going to do that by removing the main here, and then I'll run the application again. We'll just see a black screen like that. So the reason why I don't use storyboards is I find it harder to explain certain topics when I have to go use the interface builder. So I'm going to replace the storyboard by creating my own window. Screen, let's see, UI screen, dot main screen, bounds. I'm going to make it visible by making key invisible. And I have to establish the root view controller for my new window. And that is typically a UI navigation controller. It gives you that nice tab bar on the very top there. But we have to specify root view controller yet again, but for this navigation controller. So what is this view controller that we want to instantiate here? So that's going to be this view controller. And I'm going to go ahead and override this to subclass UICollectionView controller instead. And here, I'm going to rename this featured apps controller. That is this screen here. So the featured apps is what I'm looking to build right now. And I'm going to remove this line here, and I'm going to do one thing really quickly to show you what is being shown here. By changing the background color to red, we have a collection view of red. And I'm going to instantiate that view controller right here, calling it controller. How about featured apps controller equals featured apps controller. And to instantiate a collection view controller, we need to specify a collection view layout. And that layout will be UI collection view flow layout. Don't worry so much about this, but just know that this is what is required to make your application work. Now that we have that, we'll use featured apps controller and run that. We'll see a red collection view as our base for our project. So that's pretty good, right? Now, I'm going to change this back to white and hit run again. So change it to red just to show you that the collection view is actually what is being shown. Cool. That looks pretty good so far. Let me just drag this over, and I'm going to go into Photoshop here. show you what I am going to build and how I typically approach a problem of this size. The layout for the App Store is not super complicated, but it's not super simple either. What I mean is we have a cell, or we have a row at the very top, and then more rows on the very bottom here and here. And what I want to build first is the category of apps for best new apps and best new games. And I'm going to start off by building a row like this. And in order to construct that, we need several cells and several rows to build out that layout. And so I'm going to start from this step here, move to here, and then here. And it's actually not that hard. You might be thinking, wow, how do I create a horizontal list like that? And I'm going to show you right now. So first, let me create 3 black cells by simply telling the controller I want to return 3 cells. So let's provide CollectionView's number of items in section. Return 3, like that. Very, very easy. And I actually want to return the black cells themselves. So CollectionView, let's use cell for item at index path. And now we need to return something here. So this something is a CollectionView cell. And I want to return this cell here. So I'm going to create a new cell class called category cell. I'm going to subclass that as UICollectionView cell here. And let's just provide a override for init with frame. I'm going to tell you why in just a bit. I'm going to fix this compiler error that will show up like that. So every time a cell is dequeued from a collection view, it calls init with frame. And so I'm going to perform some view setup in there by creating this method called setupViews. And I'm going to add a label or make the background a different color. But first, let me return that cell here. So I'm going to dequeue it from the collection view with some kind of cell ID. And so cell ID will be cell ID. It doesn't matter what you call it as long as it's some kind of string. The next path will be this next path here, passed into this method here. And let's downclass that or downcast that as a category cell like this. And we'll just set that there for now and return that cell here. So before this can actually run, I need to register that cell. So what I mean is if I run it now, the application will crash, telling me that I don't have that cell registered here with this cell ID. So let's fix that really, really quickly by registering that cell. And we'll use this category cell as our cell to register with the identifier as cell ID. Now that we have that properly registered, we have nothing showing on the screen, which is good. So I'm going to change the background of this cell to red and run that again. So now this collection view is returning 3 cells with 50 by 50 width height cells by default. I want to change that to expand fully to the left and right very, very easily by saying this. Delegate flow layout. That allows me to override this method here, this layout here. So it's size of specified items cell. And if I just return a size, which I'm going to make right here, by saying view.frame.width and a height of, let's say, 150, then I'll say, okay, for each cell, give me the width of the entire view and then a height of 150, like so. That's how I get cells of that size. Pretty easy stuff, I would say. And I'm going to change that to black, like what we have in our Photoshop mock here. So far so good. Now, the somewhat more tricky part of this layout is we want to establish a horizontal collection view within each cell. So essentially, that means I want a collection view of cells and a collection view inside of each of those cells. I don't want to confuse you too much, but that's just the idea of how we want to easily lay out this, what I'll call a grid of cells. So the next thing I want to do is I want to do something more with this category cell class. So I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to create a new file. Let's see, Swift. I'm going to call this category cell. And I'm going to import UIKit to get my cell classes, and I'm going to paste that there. And for this, I'm just going to delete it and run the application again. Look at exactly the same thing we had before. So I want to add a lot more code into this class without confusing you too much. All right, so that's a pretty good starting point. Now I want to produce this horizontal list of smaller black cells, and I'm going to do that by adding a collection view within my cell. So the way to do that is to create a collection view like this. So I'm going to create it in code, and I'm just going to subclass this as a UICollectionView, and I'm going to type this out pretty fast. So this needs to be a collection view layout of some kind of layout. I'm going to create that right here. Need to use collection view flow layout like this, and then let's just return that collection view. So I'm going to change this collection view background color to let's just change it to blue, and then I think we're good. Right, so let's see what that says here. Right, so this is also missing a frame argument, and I'm going to say .0. Let's build that. Okay. Now the more interesting part is to add this collection view onto the subview hierarchy of this cell. So to do that easily, I'm going to say add subview, and I'm going to call apps collection view that we just created up here. Pretty good. And I'm going to use layout constraints to plop that view into my cell. So what I mean is I'm going to say add constraints right here, and that's layout constraints. And I'm going to use constraint with visual format. And I'm going to use this visual format here. I'm going to explain to you what that means in just a moment. Say here, v0 is our apps collection view, like that. So I'm going to make another copy of that and paste that down here. I'm going to change this H to V. So this means to expand horizontally from the left to the right edge, with V0 being our apps collection view, and the same for the vertical axis from top to bottom. So, okay, so pretty good. And one thing I have to do before all of the constraints will work is to turn off this translates auto resizing mask into constraints. So set that to false, and I am going to run this to see what we get. So now that the collection view that we just added is inside of the cell, it's showing blue because the apps collection view is background blue color. And if we provide padding of 8 here, 8 from the left and 8 from the right, we see that we get small little black bars on the left and right. So I just wanted to show you that the collection view is now within the black cell that we created earlier. Okay, that's pretty good. And now, taking a look at the mock, we want to generate these small individual cells by using the same method that we use to generate these 3 cells here. So what I mean is I am going to now return a number of cells for this collection view here by providing a data source and a delegate for this collection view. And I'm going to do that by saying this. Apps CollectionView.dataSource is self. Let's see, self apps CollectionView.delegate also equals self. And it's going to complain because I am not yet conformed to UICollectionView data source and UICollectionView delegate. And while we're up here, let's just use delegate flow layout as well to determine our size in just a little bit. So how many cells do I want to return? Number of items in section. I'm just going to return 5. And what is the cell, the actual cell view that I want to return here? So those little black cells. And I'm going to create a new class. So let's just do this. Collection view. Cell for item at index path. And let's just return something here. And so what is that something? That something will be this class. Let's call this app cell. A UI collection view cell like that. And we also need these couple of initializers there. So I'm just copy and paste that there and create a setUpViews function again. Cool. So now that we have that ready, we need to return this cell here. So let's just say collection view dequeue a cell, just like we did for, before. Cell ID index path, and we need to create this cell ID index path, or just a cell ID. And let's just say private let cell ID equals maybe app cell ID. Doesn't matter what that is so much. I'm going to paste that up there. And now that we have that ready, we're almost there, but we need to first register this app cell to our collection view. So I'm going to do that by saying app collection view register class app cell.self, and here I'm going to use cell ID. Running that, we'll be able to see small cells within this blue collection view once I change the background color to red, like that. So we're going to see red small cells, 5 of them, inside of my blue collection view here. And I'm going to change this to the height of the entire collection view. So here's how we do it, just like what we did before, by providing a layout, size of specified items cell right here. And let's just create a size of, what do we want to do, 150, and view.frame.height, like that. And this, we don't need the view here because we are actually a category cell. So it has a frame property on it specifying how tall and wide it is. So pretty good. If I try to scroll this to the left, it's not going to work because it is still using the default scroll direction of vertical. To fix that, we do that easily by saying scroll direction is horizontal up here. And remember, our blue collection view is apps collection view. And now that it is the layout is scroll direction of horizontal, we have a horizontal scrolly grid just like this. So I'm going to turn off the black bars now that I have my layout pretty well illustrated for you guys. And I'm also going to turn off the blue color by saying clear color. And also, I am going to change this to black color and run and see what we get. All right. Cool, cool. We have our black cells in here now. I'm just going to maybe change that to 100. And the blue is still there in the background because this is still blue. So let's just change that to clear color. and see what we get now. Okay, pretty awesome. Now we have these horizontal black cells, just like what we wanted in our mock right here. Cool, cool. Step 3. And step 3, let's see what we have here. We have a label that says Best New Apps, an image view, the title, the category, and the price at the very bottom. So to create that really quickly, it is not too hard. And I'm going to first start off by creating this image view here. And you notice it has a corner radius of roughly 16, 18, and we're going to start off by creating that image view. So I'm going to say let image view equals image view, like that. Well, let's just create it like this. Yeah, image view. Let iv equals image view, like this. iv.image is something here. So UIImage has a method called named, and for string we need to provide a actual string for the image. And first we do that by opening our assets category like this. And I'm going to go to Finder and let's see. I'm going to drag in this frozen image here. Let's see what that looks like. Just like that. And now let's go back to our cell here. And that file name I just dragged into the the assets catalog is called frozen. I'm going to return that image here. And I'm also going to set this thing called content mode to scale. Aspect fill maintains the aspect ratio of the image. All right, now look at that. Let's just close that off by using the paren. And now let's do add subview, image view. And in here, instead of using constraints, I'm going to use recs because they are a little bit easier for me to work with, and it'll be easier to specify the labels with recs as well. So let's say frame is CG rect make, and here I want to do 0, 0, view, no, frame dot width, and frame dot width. So having done that, let's now remove this black color as well and run that to see what we get. So pretty good, right? Black is no longer showing, and then the cell has a width of 100 and a entire height of probably this tall, but I specified the height of the image to also be the width of the frame. So that's why we get a square 1:1 ratio image. Okay. And so I'm going to do this layer business to turn on a corner radius of 16. And let's just leave that like so. Okay, let's see, layer.mask to bounds also has to be true. And I'm going to run that to see what we get. Okay, looks pretty good. It has a radius of 16 right there. Let me just bump that up. And it's still scrollable. Cool. So I'm going to push that from the left edge by a couple of pixels. And I'm going to do that by specifying what we call margins for a collection view. So going back to our collection view data source here, I'm going to provide it with a margin method. Just going to hit return UI edge and sets make at 0, and here we're going to say 14, 0, 14. I'm going to show you what that does. So there's 14 on the left and then 14 on the right. Let's go right, 14 left, 14 right. Pretty easy. Collection views are really great in order to maintain the exact type of layout we want to provide. So the next business is to just shrink this down first, to provide the title of the app. And I'm going to create this label here. Label is that. So I'm going to create a label in here. Label.text is Disney build it. Frozen, I believe, is what the title is called. Turn label, and let's do that. Okay, here I'm just going to specify the font with this, say 12, and add this onto the subview hierarchy. It's called name label. And here I'm going to say, okay, name label.frame is cg-rect make. And here I'm going to say frame.width plus 2. So I want it to appear below the image. And here, let's just say frame.width and a height of 40. Run that, and we'll see the label appear slightly below the image. And let's see, to remove the ellipses truncation, we just need to specify number of lines equal 2. So that's looking pretty good, and I might even want to bump the font up to maybe 13. Okay, now that we have that, we want to provide this category label that says entertainment. So let's do that right here by saying let category label. And I'm just going to copy and paste this entire bit here just to save you guys a little bit of time. And let's just say entertainment. Change the font to, let's just bump this to maybe 14. Keep that at 13. So it's defaulted to 1 and category label. I'm going to add that as a subview, category label. And let's see, category label. Scroll this down a little bit. Frame is cg-rect 0. And here we'll say frame.width. And let's just use a value of 42, maybe. And this will be frame width, and this will be 20. Run that, and let's see what the layout looks like. Okay, you notice how the text is being cut off just a little bit, and I will fix that by saying this. So each one of these cells have a height of something, and that something is determined by our collection view here, and what this height value here is for size. So let's bump that up to 2, maybe 230. I think that is a good value for the size of the cell. And I'm going to push also a price label down below. Let's go back to category cell, and price label will be created right here. I'm just going to copy and paste that guy and call this price label here. And this, let's just say the app is $3.99. And let's see, that looks pretty good. I'm going to change the text color to UI color, dark gray color, and let's just do that here. Okay, pretty good. Add that to the subview hierarchy by doing that. And finally, specify a frame for the price label, cg-rect with 0, and I'm going to use frame.width. And here we'll say roughly 56. I'm going to bump up the entertainment text by saying 38, and here will be frame.width and 20 again. And now running that, we get something that looks closer to our mock here. I think it looks pretty good. And I want to provide this horizontal bar at the very bottom as well. So in order to do that, I'm not going to edit this cell anymore, because this cell contains this bit right here, and I want the entire line to expand from left to right down below. So that is actually in the category cell, and I'm going to create a line very simply by saying, okay, divider line view is this view here. I'm going to create a view, specify its background color is maybe that, 0.4, 0.4. Return this view here. And let's add that as a subview, divider line view. Pretty good. And I'm going to copy and paste this constraint here for our divider view. And V0 in this case will be our divider line view. And okay, I'm going to push that 14 pixels from the left by just saying that. So what I mean is we want 14 pixels here. And then I'm going to specify this at the very bottom of this cell here by saying, okay, in this vertical constraint, I'm going to have something called V1, and it'll be 0.5 pixels tall because we're in the V vertical axis, and close that bracket off now. So we need to specify what V1 is, and it is simply that. Let's see, water here. So this huge warning that we're seeing is because of this translates auto resizing masks. And now there we go. So as I scroll up and down, you see that faint line right there. It is actually showing up there. And I will, so if I bump up the similar size, you see it by default. Let's shrink it back down. And that looks pretty good. The only missing label is this best new apps label here. And let's create that really quickly as well. So I'm going to create it above the collection view. It doesn't really matter where you put it so much, but let's just keep it nice and clean here by saying name label for this category is UI label. And let me see if I can take some of this code here. So I'm going to copy that label generator and put that here. Return it with the parens. And what does this say? Best new apps. And change the font size to roughly maybe 16. Number of lines will be 1 by default. And let's just also turn off this translate. Cool. Next, we will add it as a subview by saying name label. And then I'm going to copy and paste yet again this constraint that is for the horizontal axis by saying this name label, 14 pixels from the left. And I'm going to modify this vertical constraint to contain that name label now. So instead of calling our labels V0 and V1, we can also say name label like this. Specify a height of, let's say, 30. And close it off there. And here I can say, okay, what is this name label thing that I have in my visual format? It is actually my name label, like that. Cool. It's pretty good. And I'm going to run that guy one more time. So that's pretty good. Now the image view is slightly being cut off, and we get some warning down here saying that the size of our cells are not correct. It's just a warning. You can pretty much ignore it, but let's just fix it right here. So I'm going to subtract 30 from the height of this collection view cell here. And that's because of this 30 there. Basically, it's complaining that there's not enough height pixels for our cell view. So in order to take into account this 0.5, I'm just going to subtract 2 more pixels. And there we go. That warning has gone away. So pretty good, pretty good. Bump that up to bigger size. And let's take a look at what we have as our collection view. So that looks pretty good. And going back to our mock here in Photoshop, that looks pretty close. I mean, it's not exact, but it's not too hard to design something that looks really, really good. So that's kind of it for this video. And we are going to go into how to populate each individual cell with the individual apps in the next video. So stay tuned for that. Make sure to definitely subscribe to the channel so that you get the alert for when that video comes out, most likely within the next couple of days. And while you're hitting the subscribe, make sure to hit the like as well. Okay, that is it. Make sure to take a look at the completed source code, which will be available either here or a link down in the description below. There is also going to be a step-by-step guide on how to do all this stuff. And if you like the written form of all of this, maybe if you like it in a slower format, you can definitely visit that link as well. So that's it. Enjoy your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.